Today on Secrets of Beautiful Gardens, a living, breathing art gallery in the Australian bush. And I find this place incredibly spiritual as we get up close and personal with some of the most creative and artistic gardens in the country.
You just want to hug it. Ah, oh, so cool.
In these gardens, the rule books have been thrown away. Where's that from?
Found on the side of the road.
Bit of roadside art, love it. And it's all about having some serious fun.
Now, I hate to think, but I think this button here is the exit. See ya. G'day and welcome to Secrets of Beautiful Gardens. Now, garden design is a lot more than just plants and pavers. Garden design is an art form on its own.
Like all great works of art, a beautiful garden should inspire emotions in those who see it.
So on this episode, Graham and I are exploring gardens that have embraced art in all its forms, from sculptures and ceramics right through to rare and exotic plants, to create some truly magical gardens.
And what we're trying to do with these artisan gardens is to actually inspire you to turn your garden into a living work of art.
I'm heading to a place called Mangalore, which is 40 minutes away from Hobart down in Tassie, and we're going to visit a couple of sculptors. There's Morin and Foer. Their home and showroom is a spectacular historic property called Oakwood. It's set on 32 acres and nestled amongst 60 beautiful oak trees. It's the perfect backdrop for over 100 sculptures made out of Kirkin steel, glass, bronze and stone. And to say I'm a fan is a bit of an understatement. So this one's stainless and rust.
Stainless and rust, Kirkin steel. It's on a turning mechanism, so we can turn it around.
And I like the view through the sculpture as well. Casting their artistic eye over every corner of the garden, Foer and Marie have turned ordinary into the extraordinary wherever you look. Even a run-of-the-mill backyard swimming pool has been converted into something pretty special.
Build a big retaining wall in the middle of it and put a couple of truckloads of gravel on one side. You add fish and you add plants, you get a system of having a natural swimming pool. You can still swim in it, the water's very clean, but it's all natural.
And it's not just sculptures being produced in this little patch of paradise, there's also a thriving vegetable garden. Your veggie garden's bigger than most people's houses.
Yes, I'll try to make it a temple to fresh food. It's in the shape of a cathedral.
And it's really nice to be able to come out and eat something from your own garden, know where it comes from, know that it's pesticide-free, tastes good. We've got a cider orchard and an olive grove.
So you say cider orchard, wouldn't that be an apple orchard?
Well, they're apples, but we have cider-specific apples.
Cute little apple.
Now I dare you to try it.
Looking around the garden, it's not hard to see why Morin Foer have chosen to make this part of the world their home and studio. Because when Mother Nature's your backdrop, the results can be spectacular. So this is the newest stuff.
This is what we're most excited about at the moment.
Stainless steel and gold. It's a little bit more bling than rust.
It is, and the inside is gilded stainless steel using 24
So
carat.
real gold?
Real gold, yeah. Not only that, it's got a light inside, so at night it becomes a light sculpture. And it spins as well.
2 for the price of 1.
2 for the price of 1.
And if you're keen for a 2-for-1 deal, well, many of Foer and Marie's sculptures serve a second purpose. And of course, your sculptures fit into smaller spaces as well, and you've got them all set up here. You could easily apply this into a small courtyard at home, couldn't you?
Yes, we do have a big range of sculptures for more intimate gardens, and the main ones being the bird baths.
If you're having a party, you can fill them with ice and serve champagne out of them.
It's the first thing I thought of. Falco and Morin sculptures have not just brought a smile to my face, they've also inspired me. I've got something in mind, a bit like their bird bath / ice bucket idea, but different. Now, I hate to think, but I think this button here is the exit. See ya!
A little later in the show, the garden that survived Mother Nature herself. It must have been heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really was.
Jason shows you how to upscale the humble fire pit.
It's a one-off piece, no one else has got one. It looks $1 million and it's absolutely practical.
Coming up next, I meet a colourful home gardener who has turned her garden into a gallery. You could sit in this garden, taking in the beauty and the sounds of the water for hours. Welcome back to the show. You know, I love visiting home gardens because you really get to know someone by exploring their home garden. These are personal spaces, especially when you combine hobbies and passions. Then they become very special places to share. We're in Canberra to meet a talented local artist, Tina Van Ray, whose love of ceramics and stained glass has produced a really unique and enchanting family garden. Hello, Tina. How are you?
Oh,
You're
good.
good? I can't believe this. You're just up the hill from Parliament House
Yeah.
and the city, yet you're in the bush.
Well, we love that.
You have kangaroos coming in?
Only when we have American visitors.
Oh, on cue. So what was it like when you first came here?
I've got to tell you, there was a dead trampoline, a dead washing line, and bindies. It was horrendous.
You've created something really special. This is the Celtic cross here,
Yeah.
the heart of the garden.
What happened was when I took out the washing line, I went to try and get the grass back in there. It just didn't work.
Right.
So I thought, Celtic knot, yes.
And when it came to actually tying the knot,
We got married in front of that area there with our 5 children here. Yes, it was lovely.
isn't that beautiful? A labour of love. 17 years on, the garden has evolved into a true work of art. Tina's garden really is a celebration of fun and individuality. Wherever you look, there are surprises. This is Victor Borger. He's a mosaic dog. He was a Danish comedian, but an amazing pianist. This is, of course, the piano, but these musical keys here say, "How much is that?" Oh, you know the story. Love the toadstools. Lots of colour. In fact, the colours have picked up the grevillea, which is royal mantle, that amazing red, the acanthus at the back, dramatic, strong, and I love these wattles on either side. Behind this diosma hedge is another amazing surprise, an archway filled with incredible stained glass panels. Look at the little hellebores there, the rock rose. It's looking great, as is the Carolina jasmine in full flower, and the perfume is beautiful. Without a doubt, the largest art installation in the whole garden is this daybed. And it was inspired by the trip that Tina made to Ravenna in Italy, where she studied art and mosaic work and how to put the whole thing together. Angels, the peace doves, all creating a very calming sort of corner. On the side here, the golden wheel and a very peaceful Buddha. Water is very important in Tina's garden, and it features all the way around it. There's a beautiful mosaic bird bath with the little dragonflies flying around it. Another corner with the camellias, the daphne and ferns really creates with water a special nook. Then there's the largest of the features here, I really love it because you've got this cascading rosemary, a purple form of white Nancy, the lamium, as a ground cover. And talking of colour, look at the white. I think it's the whitest of white flowers. That's candy tuft, right next door to a little wallflower. And then you've got pansies, a riot of colour all the way through, and picking up the colour in the little mosaic stepping stones. You could sit in this garden, taking in the beauty and the sounds of the water for hours. A lot of people get very intimidated by even the thought of introducing art into the garden. And Tina's been really clever and practical in the way that she's used her works of art throughout the garden. That pretty stained glass archway was built under the shade of the large London plane tree because nothing else would grow in that spot. So rather than having a lifeless void there, the archway has introduced colour and interest. I really love Tina's attitude to her garden and to her works of art. The great thing is it's got her out into the garden, putting thought into it and turning one little corner of the world beautiful. And who could argue with that? Later, exotic plants and garden art create a poetic landscape that would inspire any gardener. Look at this glorious thing.
Arum.
Empress of Brazil.
That's the one.
Coming up after the break, Jason will show you how to make a multi-purpose fire pit.
Well, what about if you could give it another job, another look, and make it usable all year round? G'day, welcome back. Now, a little earlier in the show, we visited Falco and Morin's beautiful sculpture garden in Tasmania. I was inspired by everything, but one thing that drew my eye was a little bird bath that doubled as an ice bucket. Now, my take on that is replace the ice and add fire. And we can make a multi-purpose sculpture that looks good, is practical, and you can use it differently all year round in the garden. Fire pits and fire bowls have become a really common element in backyards, and for good reasons. They're fantastic. I love nothing more than firing it up in the cool of the afternoon, sitting around with your best mate, waiting for the evening to kick in. But when you're not using them, they can be a little bit unattractive. Well, what about if you could give it another job, another look, and make it usable all year round? I'm going to turn it into a coffee table. There you go, job done. See you on next week's show. Just kidding. This is the formwork so we can pour a concrete lid over the top. Now, steel and concrete are two of those materials that add a touch of class to your garden, and it's pretty easy to work with. So I need to make a circle out of my formwork that's going to sit snugly inside that bowl. It's got to sit 35 mil down from the top of the lip so we can pour the concrete nice and thick and even. Formwork done, and the hole that's not a mistake, and it's not going to look like a mistake, will be a perfect spot for either a planter or an ice bucket. And it's got another purpose. You take those two things out, and it's your handle to lift the concrete out. To form up the circle for my handle, I've just cut the top off an old pot because I know it's perfectly round, and what I want to put inside it will fit like a glove. I need to tap that down. Plus, shoehorn in pieces of core flute around the edges. That just gives me a bit of breathing space so the concrete fits snug, but it's still loose enough to pull out. Now, all the edges are watertight, which means it's concrete tight, and I've got a little bit of mesh to go in there to give it strength. Concrete's only as strong as the reinforcement that you put in it. Keep it away from the edges, that way no oxygen's going to get to the steel and cause concrete cancer. Now, I'm going to make my own concrete. 3 parts sand, 2 part gravel, 1 part cement. Mix it up. Pour half your mud and add the mesh. I'm tapping it into place. And once I get it that it's sitting well below that rim, I can then add a little bit more concrete and float it off. And like sands through the hourglass, time has passed. 7 days later, it's nice and firm. But concrete keeps curing forever, so it'll be about a month until it's really set and nice and hard. But it's strong enough to play with now. Let's get rid of this formwork. going to seal the concrete with a paving sealant. Now it's UV safe, it's not going to break down, it's really easy to reapply. And when you're finished, it looks like wet concrete, which is sexy. And with a planter, it looks pleasant. But set up, ready for party time, it looks super inviting. Now, it's a one-off piece, no one else has got one. It's a real conversation starter. It looks $1 million, and it's absolutely practical. But you can see my mate's disappeared. I think Danny's a fan of the fire. Either way, I can change it next week.
You know, handcrafting a unique piece like Jason just did for the garden really adds another layer of personality to the landscape.
But if you've made it yourself, that's pretty special. These days, they call it DIY, but I reckon it's DNA, because you're making your garden your garden.
The garden that we're about to visit has actually been a labour of love for its owners. For decades, they've put their heart and soul into this Queensland garden, and today it's thriving and still evolving. The garden called Kirkin is in the Gold Coast hinterland. The owners, John and Carol, started the garden as 17-year-old newlyweds, transforming this abandoned banana plantation into the showpiece it is today. Kirkin is a garden of different rooms, linked with meandering paths that invite you to wander, not rush. And everywhere you look, you'll notice John's wonderful sculptures. The garden was never formally planned, but allowed to grow and develop as friends and loved ones gave them plants and cuttings. The only thing left from the original property are these magnificent jacarandas. Hi guys, tell me the story, John and Carol, about these jacarandas.
Well, when we first cleared the property to put the house here, it was them that was left. This beautiful tree and 2 of its babies that had started from seed.
How old do you think it is?
Sure that it's close on between 90 and 100 years old.
Look at this Ixora.
Yeah.
Now, did you plant this?
Yes, I planted that. It was actually a cutting from my grandmother.
What a beautiful plant.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of different tropicals in this part of the garden, but we do rely on the good old-fashioned coleus to add splashes of colour throughout the garden.
You can grow them just about every part of the country. But behind it, you've got these little splashes of tropical plants, like this beautiful pineapple lily.
That one actually started out as pure white, and as the flower has aged, it has gone green.
Yeah. Now, the gingers, look at the fabulous, aren't they great?
Beehive gingers are absolutely gorgeous.
Look at the flowers on them. Aren't they incredible? They just come up from the base.
They do.
Almost concealed. If you don't look for them, you wouldn't find them. Their intricate shape is a perfect example of nature's skill as a sculptor. So they're a great fit in a garden where flowers and plants complement John's sculptures so wonderfully. John and Carol, for obvious reasons, call this the pond garden, where John's handcrafted pond takes pride of place. The mix of plants brings in a wide variety of birds and beneficial insects. And whilst they feed on the nectar, they also need a little pond with some water, so don't forget that when you're planning your garden. This is the beginning of the cottage garden, and whilst England and France and Italy have lots of them, Australia has some good ones too, and basically it's all about plant selection. Some of them are old and some new varieties. How about Iochroma? It would have to be one of the deepest violet blues of any plant I know. Up the top there, a beautiful Alamander peach, quite a newish variety. I've never seen that. Isn't it a beautiful colour? And on the edge of the pathway, a nice little edging plant, the Zephyranthus, or rain lily. There's some real favourites of mine here, but without a doubt, it's the salvia garden. They've trialled over 50 different species and ended up with over 150 different varieties. This is obviously the bromeliad garden, filled with one of the hardiest plants you can grow in the garden. In fact, it's really easy to look after and they look fantastic all year round. Big blocks of bold colour. And the way they've done that is to plant 20 or 30 plants of the same variety, so you get those strong colours with much greater impact. Oh, and don't forget, the old man's beard, it's also a bromeliad, a tillandsia. I think you'll agree that this place is jam-packed full of terrific inspiration that you can use at your place, especially if you also want to bring some art into your garden. Not only have John and Carol created the garden by themselves, but the artworks located throughout the garden were handcrafted by John. As well as being beautiful to look at, John's sculptures serve a second purpose by helping to link all the different zones throughout the garden, from the bromeliad garden through to the cottage garden and the pond garden. They all feature John's wonderful creations, which really gives Kirkin an overall feeling of cohesiveness and connection that would really be missing without them. Later, a garden that has been given a new lease on life thanks to the passion of one very dedicated sculptor.
This is the one I wanted to show you. Yeah. Queen of the Fairy. It used to be a 100-year-old Chinese weeping elm.
Really? And coming up, a Brisbane backyard that puts the fun into functional.
And everything's been thought of from pillar to post.
But next, I uncover some rare and exotic artworks created by none other than Mother Nature herself. I've never seen this ever before in my life.
Pretty spectacular, isn't it?
You know, when you meet ardent plant collectors, they're full of knowledge and enthusiasm, but less so when it comes to the design aesthetic. They tend to collect plants like coins and trinkets without much consideration to how they're going to display them in a garden. David Fripp, on the other hand, has taken exotic plant collecting to a whole new level. His garden is a work of art. Its name, Living Edge Garden. It's filled with rare, endangered and really hard to get plants from right around the world. Hard to believe the garden is only 2 years old, but it has borrowed from the surrounding bushland. It's also out there as far as plant collections go. It's basically one person's passion for collecting rare plants. Let's meet David. David, how are you?
Good, thanks, Graham, and you?
Excellent, thank you, pal. What a beautiful garden. Starting with this cascading green on his veranda. It's a vertical garden with a difference. The plants aren't hard against the wall. They're suspended off chains, which provide good ventilation for both plants and the wall. The plants themselves are living sculptures, while the chains and hanging displays act as ornamental elements that add an extra dimension to this incredible collection. Now, you've got some really unusual plants. Some I recognise, some I don't. A little orchid there that's just finishing flower.
Danhopia florida.
Amazing the way the flowers pop out the bottom of the pot.
Yeah.
That looks like a succulent.
It is. It's one of the string of bananas. It's just an unusual one that we picked up at a nursery somewhere.
Now, there's one here that's absolutely captured my vision as I came up. That's a native fern, isn't it?
It is. That one, I think, is the Indonesian foxtail.
Isn't it beautiful and soft and delicate?
It is. It's a spectacular thing.
It's more than a vertical garden, isn't it?
It is.
It's more like a work of art. So what do you call it?
The hanging gardens of Pete's Ridge, I suppose.
After the area he calls home on the New South Wales Central Coast, David's transformed the rest of his property into a series of gardens that are full of great ideas too. Now, this is pretty spectacular because growing anything under scribbly gums is a bit of a nightmare because they're so hungry.
It certainly is.
But you've got a great display. What have we got?
Mostly garbage gypsophila,
another agave that I really don't know what it is. We think it's ferox, but we're not entirely sure.
Can we have a look at these? Because this looks like a bromeliad.
It is. That's Puya chiliense.
Isn't it a glorious thing?
Yeah, and flowers for a very long period of time. Just seems to continually send up flowers through the warmer months.
David's love of the unusual includes garden art as well as his own creations, dotted through the landscape. This piece of suspended art?
Yes.
Where's that from?
Found on the side of the road.
Bit of roadside art, love it. These are pineapple lilies.
Yeah, eucomis.
Beautiful, aren't they?
They are.
It seems at every turn there's another surprise. I've never seen this ever before in my life, so how rare is it?
Pretty rare. That's Bauhinia tomentosa. Flowers for a good 8 months of the year.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Look at this glorious thing.
Arum.
Empress of Brazil.
That's the one. Very rare to flower. Once it flowers, it will only flower again in another 2 years, depending on its climatic conditions.
Ah, now this I know, because it's the silk floss tree.
That's it.
What an amazing trunk. Look at those thorns.
It's pretty spectacular, isn't it?
As you'd imagine, even David's cactus garden is full of really cool plants and wonderful sculptures that help to underscore the theme of each area in the garden.
This is amazing. This is like a saguaro cactus from Arizona.
Yeah, it's from that region. Mexican, I think, from memory.
Yeah, look at the flowers.
Yeah, they just pop out of nowhere.
That's a weirdo. What's that one?
It's a poinsettia.
Really?
The same family, anyway.
A euphorbia?
Yes.
Wow.
One of the Madagascan euphorbias, that one.
Doesn't look like a poinsettia,
No,
does it?
no, it doesn't.
And very rare. I don't think I've seen that before.
No. Took us a long time to even find out what it is.
Well, that's like a lot of the plants in your garden. Wow, I've seen some Aristolchas and Dutchman's pipe, but nothing like that. That's how it starts out. And look at the flower. This is incredible. Amazing patterns, isn't it?
Certainly
now,
is.
they say that they don't recommend growing Dutchman's pipe in Queensland. You need to check first. But for the rest of the country, this is quite an incredible plant. I guess the insects go in here?
Yes, the downward-facing hairs. The fly goes in the opening, buzzes around in the bell, and then as the flower wilts, it re-releases the fly and it goes off and pollinates another plant.
How incredible. I'm not sure if it's beautiful, but it certainly is unusual. David's not only a gifted gardener, he's a gifted propagator too. This is the dragon fruit. Now, I thought they were pretty rare, but I should have expected to see them here. This one is the one with the incredibly deep red flesh. And look at them, hundreds of fruit every year, looking fantastic. You know what all the plants are that are here?
We do.
Where do they all come from?
All over the place. We're given things, we buy things.
Overseas, local?
Overseas, locally.
It's a gardener's candy shop. From roadside art to some of the rarest plants I've ever seen. Living Edge proves that when it comes to artisan gardens, you are only limited by your own creativity. Living Edge is really an incredible garden. I don't think I've seen anything quite like it before. For David, his real works of art are his plants and the way he's displayed them. His actual artworks are almost secondary, just bits that he's picked up on the roadside that he found interesting. You know what they say, one man's trash is another man's garden art. When you're choosing art for your garden, there's really only one important thing to remember. It doesn't need to be something that could be displayed in the Louvre. If it talks to you and works in the garden, there are no other rules. Later, when nature becomes the backdrop for art, the results are stunning, personal and very unique. Our original Australian fellow here, he was here before the fire and he's still here after. Up next, the beautiful garden where imagination and inspiration run free.
It's things like this and this amazing courtyard that really make this place sing. Welcome back to Secrets of Beautiful Gardens. Now, this whole episode's dedicated to artisan gardens, where you go beyond just the pavers and the plants and the decks, and you put sculptures and points of interest into your garden. Now, to most of us, it's a bridge too far and we're a little bit scared of it. But this next garden, it's practical, visually pleasing, and a lot of fun. Hidden away in this breezy suburb of Kenmore is a real surprise package. A garden that's more like a big work of art. Well, straight away I know I'm in the right place because the letterbox is not just a letterbox. It's just a Besser block wall that you can see punching through these holes, and it's covered with laser-cut stainless steel. Now, this is very pricey, but I reckon you could fake it at home with marine ply and you could give it a coat of whatever colour you like. It's practical, it works, but it's beautiful as well. I can't wait to see the rest of the place. And you can see it's not a typical garden because this isn't your typical arbour or arch. It is a sculpture. Actually, the materials wouldn't cost you a lot of money. This is just circular tube. It's been well welded and painted, but the shape, it's pretty organic. It's just been bent and it looks fantastic. Now, if you look at the house, it's nice and neat, but if it was a house with a concrete driveway and just a lawn, it wouldn't be anything special. It's things like this and this amazing courtyard that really make this place sing. Now, if I tried to sell to a client a floor that had sandstone, concrete, a limestone, a terracotta paver, second-hand bricks, different shaped sandstone and pebbles all on the one floor, 99 clients out of 100 would tell me I'm mad. But when you look at it like this, it absolutely works. But I love this white line. It goes underneath this arbour and it draws you to that sculpture. And the reason why the white line doesn't line up slap bang with the sculpture, well, this isn't a formal garden, so it can do whatever it wants, and it does, and it works. So far, everything we've seen's been on the one level, including the traditional Aussie lawn, but there's nothing traditional about this because it's got this garden bed running through the centre, shaped like a creek or a riverbed. But what I really like is it draws your eye up to this sculpture. It's made out of core 10 steel. Now, that rusty appearance is what you want. It doesn't get any worse than that. It's only surface rust, so you can work with it, and it's relatively cheap to work with. But I like how it's layered. Got the lawn, up to the liriope, up to the sculpture, but you can see through it. And the canopy of trees above it. But it's out the back where you find the biggest surprise, and where arty stuff and the design of the garden really blend together. You can't exactly miss this ground-level sculpture. Well, it's just moulded concrete. I've made bowls before, so there's no reason why I couldn't make a ball. You just want to hug it. Oh, so cool. And who said garden art needs to be serious? This sandstone spiral is kind of like a play on the paved area. And the not-so-little butterflies work as well. They're stainless steel, they're cut and bent, and they sit on Rio rod. And the best thing about the Rio rod is it's strong enough to hold them up, but it's got enough movement in it, and it's a dark enough colour that when the wind picks up, they actually look like they're flying. And when your garden is this far away from the house, you don't want to be down here all the time working on it. That's why it's mass planted. Things planted in big clumps to give you colour contrast from up there, but also want to make sure it's as easy as possible. You've got the Xanadu's with the textural leaf, and then the contrast in the colours like this variegated liriope. You can have 25 different shades of green and make your garden look spectacular. What a clever garden, full of ideas, and everything's been thought of from pillar to post. Now, we've got one more garden for you after the break, and this one's pretty special. It's literally risen from the ashes.
Coming up next, passion, fantasy and humour have created a truly unique sculpture garden, proving that there are no rules.
Now, she's very famous because she survived. Yeah, one of the lucky ones has survived the fire beautifully, and she's still dancing in the wind. Yes.
Welcome back. Our final garden in today's show is something very special indeed, and I can't wait to share it with you. It was painstakingly crafted by one man over 10 years. Then, tragically, it was virtually destroyed by bushfire about a decade ago. Now, rather than abandoning his life's work, the owner set out to rebuild the garden from rubble. Bruno Torves is a sculptor and an artist from Marysville in Victoria, which was devastated in the 2009 Black Saturday bushfires. Bruno's passion for fantasy and humour has created a truly unique garden that has risen from the ashes. Bruno.
Hello.
How are you, mate?
Good, Graham.
What
Yeah.
a beautiful setting. Can you show me around some of these incredible sculptures?
Yeah, that'd be my pleasure. Let's go.
A beautiful stream, look at this. Bruno was lucky to escape with his life when his gallery and home were completely destroyed in the fire. But the one thing it couldn't take was his love of art. If anything, it became even stronger.
There was no garden left. And for a moment I thought, yeah, this is it.
But you lost your whole gallery was burnt and
the
destroyed.
gallery as well, yeah. So it was a long journey to get it all back. You expect terracotta to be so good in the fire, resist temperature of 1500 degrees, and suddenly, man, I lost half of them. Big trees came down.
Yeah.
But again, we restored them, and they're nearly all back there. But behind the drama, so many beautiful things happened there. I'd rather focus on that. People would come and help, and better than before. It really is, yeah.
This seems to be the heart of the garden. This is the centre?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, she's very famous because she survived.
Yeah, one of the lucky ones has survived the fire beautifully, and she's still dancing in the wind.
Yes. How many statues and sculptures have you got in the garden today?
Well, there are quite a few new ones that I've done. At the moment, 118.
118?
Yeah.
Where did you get the energy to rebuild those sculptures and put them back together? It must have been heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really was. But I knew I had to focus on my creativity and do with what I had left, not looking back what I lost, but rather what I can do with what was left. So I think it was an important element, yeah.
Look, I've been here 5 minutes, and I find this place incredibly spiritual. Do you find that? Is that part of the reason you stayed and you love this place?
Yeah, I think it's a quite beautiful word you use there, spiritual, in the way that you have to be connected to nature.
Where did you meet this guy?
Well, it's inspired on a good friend of mine that,
Really?
that made him look like a street musician, so he's a violinist. He played the violin.
And the faces, look at his face.
Yeah,
You
he's
can
got
see
an expression.
Great detail. And of course the mouse coming out the top of his hat. The faces are very important. They've all got a great sense of humour, but are they real people?
Oh yeah, most of them, people like me and you.
Really?
But some are pure fantasy, especially the witch that I'm making.
Yeah, the witch, I saw her
the big note.
in your studio. Now, old Murphy over here, he's into a bit of timber. So why is he the optimist?
He chopped his leg off.
I didn't.
People don't notice it.
She's sitting on top of an old tree stump.
Why not? Yeah.
Now, this is quite an important spot because our original Australian fellow here. He was here before the fire and he's still here after.
This is the one I wanted to show you.
Yes. Oh, this is a new one.
A fairly new one. The Queen of the Fairies used to be a 100-year-old Chinese weeping elm.
Really?
Yeah.
Magnificent
so I've
tree.
never seen the branches growing each other's like this. I've never seen a tree like that.
You've brought this back to life.
That's a good thing.
That's one of the most beautiful things here. All of this creativity, where did it all come from?
It's in the blood, I guess. Yeah.
There's a real essence of excitement and fun in all of them.
You want to see people walking out smiling. I think it's a great something you share with people. Yeah, they go back smiling.
I've never visited anything quite like this, and I've never met a gardener as talented as Bruno, a clever artist, a sculptor, and somebody with a great passion to combine the exotic, the native, in this quite spectacular forest.
We love what we're doing here, and if people can enjoy it, even better. So this is my pleasure. Yeah.
Been absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Graham.
Mate, what a powerful story.
Hugely powerful. I still find it emotional to watch that vision, you know, because nature destroyed Bruno's garden, and now nature's helping Bruno recreate it again. That's incredible.
And the fact that the Chinese elm was lost, but it's been repurposed, is a pretty special part of the garden.
You know, interestingly, he told me that his colour palette actually matches the colours of the Impressionist paintings, which is really quite interesting because it makes his sculptures sort of stand out to a degree, and then when you look at it, they sort of blend back into the landscape, which is pretty amazing.
Art and sculptures in the garden are one of the only things that can really create an emotion in your garden.
And they don't need to be perfect. We often see, and you've seen them too, gardens that are immaculate. Well, that can be your style if you like, but if you want it to be more relaxed and have that style that you want, and create the sort of the artistic content, then go for it. What you want is a space that you want to be in. Next time, we take you inside edible gardens that are as beautiful as they are bountiful. It's a classical vegetarian garden.
Yes.
As sustainability and seasonality become popular principles of modern living,
I have at least 200 edible and useful plants.
we unlock the secrets of the homegrown garden.
This is my pride and joy, Graham.
Oh, I can see why. Wow.